Good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us on this glorious day to celebrate the official opening of this fantastic home for the University of North Dakota School of Medicine and Health Sciences. A special welcome to all of you who are here to celebrate UND Homecoming 2016. And thank you, friends and guests who've traveled here from afar to share in this momentous occasion. I know that some of you have traveled many miles to be here with us today. Thank you, and welcome to my family who is joining us today, and special kisses to our granddaughters Petra, Sasha, and Noah. A building as large and complex as this one would not have happened were it not for the thousands of hours that hundreds of faculty, staff, students, contractors, architects, and others poured into this building. I would like to thank everyone who worked so hard to make this dream a reality. We will be recognizing many of them tonight at our gala celebration. But I do want to mention a few who made extraordinary contributions to the project, starting with Randy Aiken, the chair of the building committee and associate dean for administration and finance. The members of the building committee did a phenomenal job of coordinating the planning, construction, and transition into the new facility. Other members of the committee are Judy Solberg and Drs. John Allen, Joy Dorsher, Malak Katba, Jonathan Geiger, Colin Combs, Gwen W. Hallis, Stephen Light, and Tom Moore. Brenda Norris provided an essential link between the school and the university and did a fantastic job. Jim Galloway of JLG Architects, Barb Levy of Steinberg Architects, and Bob Novak of Perkins & Will provided exceptional technical support. And Mike Hedrick, Brad Hendrickson, and Mike Schaefer of PCL Construction managed this complicated project with aplomb. And former UND President Bob Kelly and current Vice President for Finance and Administration Alice Brecky provided strong support, especially during the planning phases of the project. Most important of all, I'd like to say thank you to the people of North Dakota who provided the funding for this project. This building is remarkable in many ways. It is, after all, the largest public building project in the history of the state of North Dakota. But permit me to pose a question. Why is a new building in Grand Forks so important to the entire state? The essence of the answer is contained, I believe, in the story of another building, in another time, in another country. After the Dark Night, more than 75 years ago, when the building housing England's House of Commons was destroyed by incendiary bombs, Parliament considered rebuilding the chamber. Two floor plans were debated. Either retain the prior rectangular pattern or utilize a new horseshoe design. Prime Minister Winston Churchill strongly favored the rectangular design and insisted that it was critical to maintaining the two-party system that formed the core of British parliamentary democracy. He summed up his assessment with his famous observation, quote, "We shape our buildings, and afterwards our buildings shape us," unquote. Churchill's insight helped ensure that the design of the new chamber retained a rectangular arrangement. Work on the House of Commons began in May of 1945 and was completed in 1950. It is the chamber you can visit today. And so it is with the new home of the UND School of Medicine and Health Sciences, although we did manage to complete it in less than 2 years rather than the 5 it took for the House of Commons. This building will help shape the future of healthcare in North Dakota for decades to come by developing the healthcare workforce and the new medical knowledge and insights that together will improve the quality of life for all North Dakotans. But unlike the House of Commons, where Churchill insisted that the design of the building should strengthen the divisions between the two political parties as a way to encourage and support democratic debate, our new building is designed with laboratories, classrooms, small group learning rooms, learning communities, and other facilities to bring together the various members of the healthcare team so that they can learn the paramount importance of collaboration, cooperation, communication, and interprofessional team-based care. It is now my distinct pleasure and honor to introduce some of the individuals who played major roles in helping the building become a reality. Permit me to begin the introductions of our distinguished guests at today's celebration by welcoming Tom Brusegard, who is the Regional Director for Senator John Hoeven, and Gail Hand, who is the Northeast Area Director for Senator Heidi Heitkamp. I'd also like to welcome Nancy and call me Ed Schaefer, a former governor of the state of North Dakota. Welcome to all of you. I am pleased to welcome newly inaugurated UND President Mark Kennedy. President Kennedy assumed the presidency less than 4 months ago and was officially inaugurated on Monday. The vibrant energy and openness of our new president is evident to all, and it is my pleasure to welcome him to the podium. President Kennedy.
What a great way to celebrate a homecoming. I just want to thank everybody that made this possible. Clearly, this was going on before I got here, so I just want to make you know how each and every person up here on the stage and many others, the legislators here today, have made an extremely wise decision to invest in this building, to invest in this asset for the state of North Dakota. I can tell you, coming in, I've spent my first 90 days listening, and I came over here to the school and had Josh and his team go through what they're doing. And I have to tell you, the quality of the school is as good, if not even better, than the quality of the building. And you combine those two together, and it means phenomenal care, phenomenal healthcare professionals throughout the state for North Dakota. The other thing that struck me as I was being briefed is how much effort they're taking on making sure that the stuff we're doing here is benefiting the state. And with the Healthcare Workforce Initiative, this building and the investment that the state has put in this is allowing us not only to deliver more medical doctors, but more physician's assistants, more occupational therapists, more physical therapists, more of any number of other healthcare professionals. You might know that we've launched a strategic planning process, and let me stop and first of all recognize that we have my lovely wife, Debbie Kennedy, here, our First Lady, in the back. And I know besides former Governor Schaefer, we have former Governor Al Olson, so we want to acknowledge all those great contributors to this state. When I was thinking about collaboration, I, of course, immediately thought of my wife and made sure to introduce her. But we're going on a strategic planning process that is focused on one UND. But what you heard Josh talk about was a one healthcare delivery team that works together. And this building is specifically designed, as Josh said, I should say Dr. Wynn said, to shape that education, and that will ultimately shape the kind of healthcare that is being delivered throughout the state. So there are so many things going on here that are positive. It's a great role model of the university to what we have here at the medical school. I congratulate Dr. Wynn and his team. I thank each and every one of the persons here. Our good friend from Altru, Mr. Molman, was instrumental in spearheading this. We want to give him special recognition, but certainly to each of our legislators. Thanks for being here. Thanks for helping us celebrate this wonderful milestone.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it. Thank you, President Kennedy. A publicly supported project such as this does not just happen. It takes leadership from the executive branch of state government. Both the governor and Lieutenant Governor Drew Wrigley, who is with us in the audience, provided that leadership. The governor included support for a major School of Medicine and Health Sciences building project in his 2013-2015 executive budget, and he then signed the legislation that authorized and provided the funding for this building. But more than that, yes. But more than that, he and the Lieutenant Governor provided constant support and encouragement for the project. At the time of the groundbreaking ceremony on June 12, 2014, Governor Dalrymple was kind enough to present me with this memento. It is now my pleasure to welcome him to the podium inside the building that he helped make happen. Ladies and gentlemen, North Dakota Governor Jack Dalrymple.
Gosh, thank you very much, and boy, is this nice to be here. I would suggest that you remember to pay the light bill.
Yes, sir.
So things keep running smoothly. What a place this is. I mean, it is unbelievable. I just met a person from the National Medical Facility Association. I believe he's the director, and he said that they consider this the #1 medical education building in the United States. Congratulations to all of you. Just a couple of words. You have plenty of speakers here today, so you don't need me. But I want to introduce my support group who comes with me. First Lady Betsy is here, Andrea Travnik from my office, and of course Lieutenant Governor Wrigley. Guys, please just stand up so they can see you. We have the sort of murderer's row here today. This is great. Chancellor Hegarot, thank you for being here. Kevin Belliker, here representing the Board of Higher Education, of course. They have to go along with all these things. And Kevin was my appointee to the board from Fargo, and I want you to know we are still on speaking terms for now. And President Kennedy, pleasure to be here with you as well. And I'm going to say a few words about legislators. These senators are going to speak themselves, but this process of getting $122 million appropriated does involve a lot of people. But at the end of the day, this group we call the legislature has to make this decision. Nobody else can do it. And there are many legislators here today, as well as our speakers, and I point them all out. I see Tim Mathern, Joan Heckerman, I see Phil Murphy, I see others. These are big decisions. And I always try to say something positive about our state legislature when I get up, because I was there myself for 16 years, and I was an appropriations chair. And I want you to know that they are underrated and underappreciated. And so I always take the opportunity to stick up for them whenever I can. I'll make a few more comments about the Senate Appropriations Chair here in a moment. But they are to be praised and thanked. for making a great decision, and not an easy decision when many, many, many constituents are out there saying, don't spend a penny, especially on higher education. And it's tough to get through that. I think you've had great leadership here at the campus as well. I've got to just remember a little moment, Josh, when Robert Kelly was president of the university, and he invited me up to a hockey game. And he said, really like you to be in our suite with me. And we have a lot of fun. You'll really enjoy it. So I came up, and you know, he kind of showed me where Betsy and I should sit. But he said, Jack, tonight I have you sitting between Dean Josh Wynn and Dean Catherine Rand of the law school. And I said, Bob, what a coincidence that you would want me to meet them and get to know them a little better. I heard a rumor that they have little building projects in mind. And of course, by the end of the evening, yes, they had charmed me to the point where I began to weaken and could see that Josh Wynn and Catherine Rand would do a fabulous job if we would give them something to work with. I want to just give a little recollection of how it all went. Getting $122 million out of this legislature is very difficult, and you have to kind of be a little bit strategic. And so we started out recommending half the project in 2013. And then Ray Holmberg comes along in the Senate Appropriations Committee and says, well, that'll be fine, but we'll get a loan for the rest from the Bank of North Dakota. That doesn't really count because it's not a debit against the general fund, it's just a future obligation. So that kind of slipped through okay. And then in 2015, I came out with the executive budget and recommended that the loan be converted to general fund appropriation. So you see, at times, you do have to kind of figure out how to get from point A to point B. And yes, it can be revealed now for the first time that Ray Holmberg and I have worked together before. And people in Grand Forks and the University of North Dakota will never know how much they owe to this individual and the things that he has done through the legislative process. I am so happy to see that I am not the oldest person here today. Bob Gaston and Cal Furco, welcome. We're so glad you're here. They opened the first clinic in North Dakota ever, shortly after statehood. No one even laughed when I said that, Bob. You know, if they accepted that. We have the history of our entire state, our entire medical history, you know, really here with us in this room. 325,000 square feet, 8 degree programs, and I just have to mention the 8 programs: athletic training, biomedical sciences, medicine, medical laboratory science, occupational therapy, physical therapy, physician assistant studies, and public health. I like to cite those programs because it suddenly makes people realize the scope of healthcare and healthcare education today in our modern world. Yes, medicine is one of the 8, but only one. And the services that are provided and the role it plays in the state economy is tremendous. And that's what you have here, a fully comprehensive program that is going to provide excellence in all of these important areas. Providing the workforce we need for the future in healthcare, to a very rural state where at times we have had to work very hard to get the people we want in our rural communities. This institution, more than anything we can do, will make that possible. So, Josh, to you especially, to the entire university, to the system, and to everybody associated with this great facility, congratulations. Job well done.
Thanks so much, Jack. Thank you. Thank you, Governor. In a system of higher education, such as we have in this state, nothing this big happens without the enthusiastic support of the State Board of Higher Education. We are most grateful for its support. Board Chair Kathleen Nessett had planned to be here, but she was called away. Board member Kevin Melliker agreed to pinch hit for Kathleen. I am very pleased to introduce Dr. Kevin Melliker. Thank you, Kevin.
Again, as Josh said, Kathy can't be here today, so I bring greetings from our board chair, Kathy Nessett, and our entire State Board of Higher Education. Today marks a great step in the future of the School of Medicine and Health Sciences, and especially for the students that are able to learn here every day.
A little closer, Kevin.
Like this? Our heartfelt thanks to our governor, legislators, stakeholders, and others that have made this dream come true. Our graduates have become top-notch doctors respected in their specialties, and many of these are practicing in North Dakota. It should be noted that the State Board of Higher Education was able to tour this building a couple of weeks ago. This is not just a beautiful building, it's a creative way of learning and collaborating in healthcare today. This is a very proud day, and Dr. Josh Wynn and his colleagues are passionate about educating our healthcare professionals. Through their experience and knowledge, our students will make a positive and lasting impact on the healthcare of our communities across the state and across the nation. Today's grand opening is a promise of more to come. Congratulations to UND and all who help make our School of Medicine and Health Sciences meet the growing needs of our students today and into the future. Again, congratulations.
Thanks, Kevin. Thank you. The other critical partner in our system of higher education is the North Dakota University system. It, too, provided constant and enthusiastic support for the project, and it is a pleasure to introduce NDSU Chancellor Mark Hagerott. And let me say that again. And it is a pleasure to introduce NDUS Chancellor Mark Hagerott.
One of the things I was asked to do is work on the acronym for NDUS. So someone said North Dakota Universities and Colleges, NDUC. How does that sound? Would that be better? I don't know. It's an honor to be here, and I know that there's some more people to follow me, and the governor said much of what I was going to say, so all these statistics are gone and everything. What I can offer, though, is UND is just exactly the type of team player I hoped for when I came here, a servant leader that takes care of people. Because some of the academic pursuits we have now are very, very mechanized. We were just at the opening of the engineering school, and I'm an engineer. You can get into data sciences, get further and further, machines studying machines. On Wall Street, there's hyperspeed trading. Entire buildings on Wall Street now are being depopulated. I don't know if you know that. It looks like people live there. They're full of computers. And we sometimes lose sight of what we're here for. We're here for the students. We're here for the people of North Dakota as servants, and that's what this is all about. And it's just an honor to be part of that. And thank you to our legislators who made this all possible. So thank you, and it's an honor to be here.
And you know, my little slip with NDUS US and NDSU, I think it's important to point out that we are in a new era of collaboration and working together. And while that was a flub on my part, it actually is evidence, I think, of a deeper level of cooperation where it really matters. It's fine to compete athletically, but in the educational arena, we really do need to try to work together, and we're trying to do that. Thank you, Chancellor. This building almost didn't happen. Plans for a more modest addition to the old building didn't get traction in the 62nd North Dakota Legislative Assembly. That was several ago, although the legislature did provide support for the initial components of the Healthcare Workforce Initiative. But one legislator asked if there was something we could do to justify full implementation of the Healthcare Workforce Initiative and the need for a new building. He proposed a utilization study of the old building and helped obtain the necessary funding for such a study. That study subsequently established the need and rationale for a new building. Senator Earbley was then the carrier of the bill during the 63rd Legislative Assembly that authorized and funded this facility. It is with profound gratitude that I introduce State Senator Robert Earbley from Lair, North Dakota. Senator. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Dr. Wynn, and also President Kennedy for the invitation to be here today. It truly is a great honor. It's been thrilling for me to be a part of the advisory committee, the UND Medical School Advisory Committee, and to really have a front row seat to the vision, the planning, the funding, and ultimately the building of this facility here today. There are 4 legislators that serve on the advisory committee, and they are Senator Tim Mathern from Fargo, Representative Lois Delmore from Grand Forks, and Representative John Nelson from Rugby. So it's a bipartisan and a rural-urban mix of legislators that's on the board. I have to put in just a little bit of a disclaimer right here. I did not wake up one morning on my ranch in south central North Dakota and say, you know, I should go to Bismarck and see what I can do about building a medical school in Grand Forks. It just didn't happen that way. But when you enter the realm of public service, you never know where the path will take you. And I was asked to serve on the board by leadership early on in my career. I'd been on the Human Service Committee and also had worked with our local hospital's EMS service. I was a part of that. And so those experiences kind of lended to being a part of the board. And it has been really a great journey. It didn't start out that way. Those first couple of meetings were just incredibly boring. We just pretty well sat there and listened to reports, and then we went home. Until one day, Senator Mathern said, you know, we're an advisory committee, and you never ask us for advice. What can we do to move the health care in North Dakota forward? And that really was the one statement that opened the door to the dialogue that made us an effective board today. I won't go deep into the legislative history. That's already been touched on. But I guess the thing that I'm amazed at is the timing, how everything, all the pieces came together just like clockwork. When the needs assessment through the Workforce Initiative came out, we saw that we'd be 260 physicians short by 2025 if we just stayed the way we were. We were needing more rural physicians. We were needing to retain more of our graduates here in North Dakota. And as we looked at the old building, we saw that it would need some serious renovation to meet those needs. And so also being blessed with a good economy allowed us to take a look at building a new building. And as a result, we have advantages that are going to save us millions of dollars in increased efficiency through the years. It's one thing to identify a problem, but then it's another to solve it. And I'm so proud that the med school has stepped forward, and as of today, we do lead the nation in the percentage of students going into family medicine, those that are willing to serve in rural areas, and we're retaining a high percentage of our graduates. You know, UND has a rich history of success. But what is history? It's just really the story of progress. It's a story of people and events that laid the foundation of where we are today. In history, you have historic moments, events that dramatically change the direction of the story. You can look at the Wright brothers at Kitty Hawk. That was a hinge point that changed the story of aviation. Look at your own ancestors when they decided to leave their homeland and come to North Dakota. That was a hinge point that affects all of us today. It changed our history. It changed the story. And today is one of those historic hinge points in history. Today we have a rare opportunity to look into the future and just imagine what kind of an impact there will be on healthcare delivery systems in the future. Today, you'll see a building with interdisciplinary learning environments that are totally different than what we've had before. Who knows what that impact will be on history? This building, I'm proud to say, is designed to be adaptable to change as technology changes. And I'm truly excited by the possibilities. Again, I want to say thank you for this opportunity. In closing, I just want to say, be thankful for what has happened. Enjoy today, and look forward to the future with great expectation and hope. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you very much. One of the most important and influential committees in the legislature is the Senate Appropriations Committee, chaired by Senator Ray Holmberg of Grand Forks. An extremely knowledgeable and insightful legislator, as has been alluded to by the governor, Senator Holmberg helped guide this debate on this project. It is a great honor to introduce Senator Ray Holmberg.
After all the nice things that have been said about me, I think I'd be better off just sitting down. And although I do have to say to my friends in the executive office and on the Board of Higher Education that they need to keep in mind that an allegory is for illustration. It is not a criticism. So don't get too excited. UND School of Medicine and Health Science, or what I learned from Rudyard Kipling and James Orchard Halloway Phillips, two English writers from the late 19th century. In 1898, Rudyard Kipling wrote a poem called The Explorer, in which he addressed the problems facing the pioneers of his world. When Kipling penned these words, I think he might have been writing about North Dakota's response to a situation that occurred 86 years ago, and I was so nervous that the dean was going to mention the story I'm going to mention, and I was getting very nervous, but we made it. And this is what he said, what Kipling said, quote, "But what sense is there in struggling, in striving, in forging ahead? It's the edge of cultivation. The trails run out and stop. There's no sense in going further. The timid, the cautious, the perplexed, they have always halted at the edge of cultivation. But the ambitious, the curious, the daring, they sailed forth to carve out these new roads that we now travel." The state capitol burned down 86 years ago. The legislature didn't stop, as Kipling warned, at the edge of cultivation, but carved out new roads. They replaced a Capitol building with something not just for the 30s and 40s, but they built for tomorrow. In 2013, your legislature had one of those rare opportunities to recreate the vision and daring of the 1931 legislature by not stopping at the edge of cultivation, but constructing a medical school for tomorrow, not just for today. We need to remember their forethought and vision from 1931 because it is around you today. And now to James Orchard Hallowell Phillips. You might not know him unless you are a member of POEM, Garrison Keillor's professional organization of English majors. Hallowell Phillips is credited with publishing The Three Little Pigs. If you were closely following the history of this new building, you know exactly where I'm going. Like the characters in this folktale, there were three government entities that had to work on this project. They were the Board of Higher Education, the Governor's Office, and the legislature. In addition to the rule of three, there was another rule of three, which was there were three options presented. A remodel costing $39 million, a remodel and addition costing $68 million, and a brand new medical school costing roughly $124. Like the first little pig, the Board of Higher Education decided to ask for a medical school built of straw because it only cost $39 million. The governor's office responded, not by the hair of our chinny chin chin, and they asked the legislature to provide $68 million for a new medical school built out of sticks. I think you know where the allegory is going to end. It was now time for the legislature to do its traditional huffing and puffing. And we did. We decided to construct an entirely new medical school of North Dakota manufactured Hebron bricks for $124 million. Was it because we were wiser? Not really. In large part, it was due to the meticulous planning by the School of Medicine, the committee, the Board of Higher Education, and lots of people, most of whom I think you think are going to all speak today. The secret sauce, though, in this whole legislative arena were the tag team efforts of Dean Josh Wynn and Dave Moman. They would be a credit to the WWE. We're here today to salute, and I want to salute all of those who made this happen, but especially the 106 men and women of the 63rd Legislative Assembly who voted yes on May 3rd, 2013, voting not to stop at the edge of cultivation, as Kipling warned, but daring to carve out this new road, and with very little huffing and puffing.
Thanks, George. The utilization study that we discussed earlier that was undertaken through the guidance and leadership of Senator Earbley was presented to the Interim Health Services Committee during the late summer prior to the 2013-2015 legislative session. That committee was and is chaired by Senator Judy Lee of West Fargo, and she worked with her colleagues on the interim committee to evaluate the report and then make a recommendation. Under her leadership, the committee strongly represented going forward with a facility expansion project in order to support the proposed 25% increase in medical and health sciences class sizes. It is a real pleasure to welcome her to the podium, Senator Lee.
Well, what do I have left to say? I mean, how do you follow Ray Holmberg? I told one of the gentlemen here in my Senate Brotherhood over here that I had been working on my putting my thoughts together for a final thought in the car on the way up here, but I have to admit I got wrapped up in a public radio, or excuse me, a satellite radio program that had me quite engaged in a murder mystery. So anyway, I apologize. But this is just such a great day, isn't it? Isn't this an exciting time for us to be here? It's just the fruition of so many good things that have taken place, and a really exciting day for all of us, I know. Many of the things, the disadvantage of being at the end is everything you wanted to say somebody's already said, but a couple little things that I'd like to add. When we're talking about this building, one of the most important reasons for the consideration of a larger new building is because not only the demand for workforce in North Dakota and around the country, of course, but also because we didn't have any place to put them in the old one. 1,000 years ago, when I graduated from UND as a med tech, we were interning in what was the old St. Michael, now would be called the old St. Michael's Hospital, which is a previous medical school building. And my classes, because it was like 1,500 years ago, were in the original medical school building in the main part of the campus. And the wind blows just as strong and cold today as it did then. But the point is that we need to, I work a lot in the Health Services Committee and in our Human Services Committees as well with workforce. It's a critical issue. We spent a lot of time on this in the last umpteen years, 22 that I've been in the Senate, but it's getting more and more important all the time. The shortages that we have in all of our healthcare careers and how important it is for us to educate them. We have to have good labs, good spaces for students and faculty. And a building like this not only helps us recruit and retain good students from all over, but it also very effectively helps recruit and retain excellent faculty and staff. And I've had the pleasure of getting to know some of them a bit better, and I am so impressed with them and what they bring to us here. As you may be aware, there are programs that Dr. Wynn and others are doing to introduce growing our own ideas to small rural communities as well as larger schools in the state as well. And you get them in middle school, and as I believe Josh said, put them in scrubs and they'll follow you anywhere. Get these kids in about 6th or 7th grade to watch him dissect a fetal pig or a heart or something like that. And I'm sure some of you may have seen photos of this. I mean, their noses are practically down in the surgical field. But it gets them interested. Maybe not being a doc, but maybe there's some other part of that healthcare career that interests them. And that's what we have to do. We have to have a place to train these people. Now we're working on the clinical experience side. We've got to make sure we can expand some of that. But two of the best people are right here in the front row, Dr. Furco and Dr. Gueston. And they are from my home community, Dr. Furco Fargo and Dr. Gueston West Fargo. And if you ever need a master of ceremonies, nobody's better than Dr. Gueston. He's the funniest guy ever. And he's retired from medicine now, so he's probably looking for a little work here and there. He's just a banquet speaker. I just wanted to mention one thing about why this moved forward in the Health Services Committee. We had been asked to receive the report, which has been mentioned before, about these 3 proposals that had been written. And so Dr. Wynn and Dave Molman came to present this report. They are in large part, a very large part, responsible for the fact that this went forward. And I want you all to know that, because they came forward, well, in the first place, they came forward with the original report, and then we did ask if the Advisory Council could be asked to really vet these 3 proposals for the cost benefit. Obviously, it costs less to just sort of rehab an old building, but where do the lines cross? You know, I'm an analytical person. Where does that long-term cost of that building begin to catch up with you compared to building a new one? And with the data that they put together and brought in the most factual and logical fashion, they didn't even have to advocate for it. It was just there, right in front of us in black and white. So I think I would like to ask you if you would just give a hand to Dave Molman and Dr. Wynn for the work they did in the best presentations ever. If I could get them to testify on all my bills, I think they might all go through too. But thank you to all of you for being here. This is just a very exciting time. I look forward to a wonderful expansion of our workforce in North Dakota. We have critical needs, as I've mentioned, and go out and tell everybody you know who's trying to decide what they'd like to major in to think about a healthcare career in North Dakota. here is a really good place for them to study. Thank you to everybody.
Thank you so much, Judy. As Senator Lee mentioned, external validation is critically important, particularly in this project. The UND School of Medicine and Health Sciences is unique in that it is the only institution of higher learning in the state that has a legislatively mandated oversight board called the UND School of Medicine and Health Sciences Advisory Council. This group of 15 health-related stakeholders has the task of advising the school, UND, the legislature, and others as to the strategic and operational plans of the school. More than an advisory council, it really functions as our board of trustees. The development of its burgeoning role in health advocacy for the state was, as was indicated earlier, prompted by the efforts of Council Member Senator Tim Mathern, who is with us in the audience today. And I'd like to just ask you to thank Senator Mathern for pushing that group to be an advocate rather than just a listener. So please join me. The Advisory Council, under Senator Mathern's urgings, became an analytical and advocacy group for the health of North Dakotans, and it was led by Dave Moman, the CEO of All True Health Systems in Grand Forks, and the chair of the Advisory Council. It is a great pleasure to introduce Mr. Moman. Thanks, Dave.
Thank you, Dr. Wynn, and good afternoon, everyone. It is so good to see you all here. I'm sorry some of you have to stand this afternoon, but I'm just so glad that we could be together to celebrate such a momentous occasion. As I was hearing the comments earlier, I was struck by some of the words that Senator Erbely and Senator Holmberg and others were talking about, recognizing that we're at a very critical, a turning point in our history, and that's the way that I feel as well. I think today we are truly witnessing history. I wonder if you could cast your mind's eye with me to a moment in the distant future, say 30 years from now, or more than 30 years from now. And the picture that I have in my mind is one of the moment when a new student first walks in this building and is standing in the same place that we're all gathered today. I can't help but imagine that in that moment, that perhaps for at least a minute, the new student might look around and wonder to him or herself, how did it come to be that perhaps the finest medical and research education facility in the nation came to be settled on these great plains and prairies of North Dakota? I doubt that that student will probably be able to recite the names of all of the people, many of them in this room, who made that important dream come true. But I really think they need to be thanked. I think they, many of them again in this room, you, all of you, need to be thanked for making that happen. And I want to spend the entirety of my comments today giving thanks for what has happened for the people of the state of North Dakota and what has happened in this place. The memory of those events, I'm sure, will long be faded into the pages of history, but the legacy will not. I think the measure of any generation is not what it provides for itself, but what it provides for those who come after it. Legacy is generosity shared across generations. And I think by what has happened here And this is thanks to all of you that we have witnessed the best kind of legacy happen in the state of North Dakota and in the construction of this facility and the purpose of this program. You know, I have no doubt that the building that student beholds will be any less awesome or inspiring than it is today. It's truly a triumphant and a beautiful place. But I don't think the legacy that you've all created is confined to a building. In fact, I don't think that's even the majority of the legacy that you've created. The legacy that you all have created, and you all know your parts, has been what you have created for the health of the people of the state of North Dakota. The legacy that you've created is for an aging rancher in rural Hettinger who, thanks to the work that has been done related to what we're seeing here today, has a doctor in their community to take care of them. Or that legacy is perhaps a physician, a future physician who many years from today, maybe it's even a physician yet becoming who is sitting in this room today, might be able to look back on a career and be thankful that because of the generosity of the state, she was able to train in the state and to be able to practice in her home community. The legacy that you've created is maybe a child in the distant future who, thanks to the research discoveries of this institution, is able to be spared the ravages of a devastating or even a life-threatening disease. What a legacy you've created, and how much beyond a building it goes. I don't know what you believe about whether people are made for their moment in history, but I, for one, believe that's true. And I believe that what we witnessed in what is happening today is the perfect example of people being made for their moment in history. A broad group of people throughout this state who were committed to a common idea and committed to the idea of the health of our state in the future, and were bold enough and willing to act. And I would remind you, at a time when most said that it was absolutely impossible, it was out of the question, it would never happen. But they didn't accept that. They went ahead and did what was best. I think that we as people will be just like the pioneers who settled our state. Will be judged by the wagon trails that we leave behind when we're gone. And I think the people who worked in this regard made some pretty good trails for others to follow. To our legislators who acted boldly, incredibly courageously, in looking to the future and doing something that, again, I think that many would say were impossible. I want to say thank you today. To our governor and lieutenant governor and to the executive branch of our state who gave great wisdom and guidance through this process, I want to say thank you. For the Board of Higher Education and the university system, who were not afraid to dream out of the box at a time when they had lots of other things on their agenda. They gave their time to this. I want to say thank you. To colleagues on the UND School of Medicine and Health Sciences Advisory Council who lit the trail and advocated tirelessly for what we're seeing today, I want to say thank you. To our Dean and Vice President for Health Affairs, Dr. Josh Wynn, who I believe has earned a special and unique recognition as a visionary and leader with this process. I want to say thank you. And to the entire administration, and to the staff, and to the educators, and the researchers at the School of Medicine. Thank you. To the administration of the university who gave support and counsel through this whole process, thank you. And to all of you for the part that you played, thank you. Your state will be grateful to you forever. We are truly witnessing history. We're celebrating the dawn of a new era in medicine. We're celebrating the dawn of a new era in health for our state. Thank you all for your contribution. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dave. The wonderful opportunities as well as the challenges of living in a rural state have long been apparent. More than a century ago, President Theodore Roosevelt appointed a committee to study rural life. The resulting report of Country Life Commission in 1909 highlighted many of the challenges. Some have been addressed long ago, like rutted roads, poor schools, and what the Commission described as, quote, the near total absence of increasingly common urban amenities like electricity, and we almost saw what happened there, indoor plumbing, and telephones, unquote. But some challenges remain, including the challenge of providing appropriate access to health care in rural towns and regions. While some progress has been made over the decades, a more recent report from only 50 years ago noted the persistent problems of rural health care delivery. Thus, the challenges of providing optimal health care in North Dakota is not new, having been documented for over a century and almost certainly since the founding of the state. Similar challenges remain. So why are we celebrating today? What's different today is that for the first time we have a concrete, coordinated, and widely accepted plan to address many of our healthcare shortages, especially workforce shortages. The building that we are celebrating today is the result of that healthcare workforce initiative. We've expanded class sizes by about a quarter, and we simply didn't have room in the old building for the additional students, let alone the associated additional faculty and staff. And we really can't teach interprofessional, team-based care if departments are scattered across campus as several of ours were. We are so very fortunate to have this new building that is now filled with the larger classes and students learning in interprofessional learning communities. Is the Healthcare Workforce Initiative going to solve all of our healthcare challenges? Of course not. But it should help in a major way, especially with our workforce challenges. Let's compare the components of the Healthcare Workforce Initiative with those identified 50 years ago. 50 years ago, the Carnegie Commission's report on medical education said if we wanted to improve health care, we needed more and better providers, more and better healthcare facilities, better financing arrangements, and better planning for healthcare. As is evident, the Healthcare Workforce Initiative addresses all four issues. It may have taken us 5 decades, but we now have a comprehensive plan for workforce development and delivery of care. The training that is occurring right now within this building will help provide the healthcare workforce for North Dakota now and in the future. So this one building in Grand Forks will help the entire state with healthcare delivery. As Winston Churchill noted so many years ago, we shape our buildings, and afterwards our buildings shape us. Thanks to all of you for joining us today for this momentous and joyous occasion. Please join me and our distinguished guests for the ribbon-cutting ceremony that will follow at the base of the grand stairway on this floor. And after the ribbon-cutting ceremony, please join and enjoy the tours of the new home of your UND School of Medicine and Health Sciences. There are maps in your program that provide a self-guided tour and will be supplemented by tour guides along the route to answer any questions. Thank you all for coming today, and enjoy the afternoon. Thank you so much. Thank you.